Good morning and welcome to Friday, March 8th. As we finish up this first full week of March, we've got some economic news coming in from China we'll talk about when Dave joins us in just a few moments. Hold tight, and Dave will be with us momentarily.
Jealous of Nick Jonas? Please get help. It's 8:40 here, 20 before 9. Looks like we might have a down week on Wall Street. First one in a little while. Let's just get all the bad news for the month out of the way in one fell swoop, shall we? Figure out what's going on with your money up north of here. We're going to go downtown to the offices of Statler Financial Services. Phillip Statler standing by. Phillip, hi there.
Hey, good morning, Dave. I wish we had better news, but today is going to be looks like it's going to start out as an ugly day. It ended ugly yesterday, and this could be the first down week we've had in quite some time.
Well, it started out right after the close yesterday and went downhill on the futures. It started out with China releasing their export figures, and they managed to somehow come up with a 20% drop in exports during the month of January, and that tanked the Asian markets. We followed it up this morning with Germany reporting their factory output down 2.6% in January. None of that good news for overseas. And then we got our job report for this morning, and everybody was expecting, at least according to the number that I had, and it's the only estimate we had, expecting the economy to add 180,000 jobs last month. And do you want a drum roll? I'll let you give the bad news.
Man, I'm telling you, I will tell you, Dave, like I said, I looked at all the sources I had because I thought it was a misprint. 20,000 new jobs created in the month of February.
You and I had exactly the same reaction. I looked at it and said, maybe they brought a temp in after the government shutdown and they forgot a zero. 20,000. We haven't had a number that bad since we were at the depths of the recession.
Well, actually, no, that's not true.
Really?
Yep. In the headline, it told me that it had been like September of 2017 was a worse month than that.
Really?
Yeah. Yep.
I don't remember that month, but probably with darn good reason, because that's a job ad number with that. Here's the odd part that I didn't get. The other report that came out for the government, part of the jobs report, is they're saying our official unemployment rate is down to 3.8%. Mathematically, I'm just kind of not getting my arms around that very well.
Yeah, and I wasn't either, Dave. But I jumped into the article and I will tell you that they took out this many people who are no longer looking for work, whether they retired or whatever reason, and then you've got this many people who have found work and they've subtracted them. It was quite the article to justify the 3.8%.
And none of it really makes a whole lot of sense, even when you read the article, I gather, huh?
No, it really doesn't. I mean, it's just one of those things. It was a convoluted article at best.
It's going to be interesting to see if I got to believe that's one of the numbers that's going to get revised in future months. You did get some good news out of it. I gather that our hourly wage figure for the average worker in this country went up a bit, though.
It did. The average hourly wage went up by about 0.4%. And then the average hours worked increased by about 0.2%. So some good indications there. And now those numbers were some of the best numbers we'd seen since 2009.
Which kind of makes me still sit on my haunches and say, I got to believe that number is going to get shrugged off to a certain extent and expected to be revised. Or maybe sometime on Monday morning we'll get, oops, typo, we forgot a zero or something. Had some good news on housing starts as well. We don't get a lot of good news on the housing market, and that looked pretty good. 18.6% increase in January.
Yeah, it did. That was a big surprise, and so excited about that part because housing's one of those things that we kind of look at, and then also permits rose too, not as much as housing starts, but we had that almost 19% increase in housing starts. And then we had a 1.4% rise in permits for new homes. So some good things there, especially considering that at the end of 2018 and in December, it was such a terrible month that it's good to see some of these housing numbers start to bounce back up a little bit.
Oh, absolutely. And as I'm looking at my tracking on the futures, it looks like, well, it's going to be a red opening almost for sure, but at least it looks like it's turning a little bit as investors get a chance to digest the reports of this morning, and it's not necessarily 100% bad news. Earnings season winding down, but you got some names that ended up reporting quarterly results. Can you give us any good news on that this morning, Phillip?
Well, we've kind of got a mixed bag this morning, but we do have some good news. Costco's came out, and they're trading up this morning on good news. They beat earnings by a good 40 cents or so, not quite 40 cents a share. Revenue missed by just a little bit, but they seem to be doing well on that mixed result. I'm trying to figure out where they went here.
Must have been some
Oh,
good
there it is.
guidance. Yep. They're on the top of my winner list this morning.
Yeah, because they're up about 4.5% this morning before we get going. We had another retailer come out, which can be a pretty popular place to go, called Big Lots.
Heard of
And
them?
yeah, have you heard of
Yeah.
them? So Big Lots came out and they did well, beat the street, and then they by quite a bit, about 38 cents a share. Revenue beat forecast, and so did their same store sales. So they're trading up. They may not be on your list, but they're up over 13% this morning.
Wow, they aren't
Yeah.
they aren't on the listing of stocks my source gives me, but that's a nice up. And it's also good to hear coming from a store that has a location in this county.
Yeah, it really is. Now we've got a couple other things here. We've got Navstar, which is a truck maker. Um,
Hmm.
they came in and beat by about 5 cents a share. Revenue jumped 28% year over year, and that was pretty good. And so they're having some better truck sales, best quarter they've had since 2010.
Cool.
And so
Transportation is always a sector we look at as a bellwether too, so that's good news on a number of fronts.
yeah, and they're making up for their loss yesterday. They're up about 5.25% this morning after being down 4% yesterday.
Cool.
So
You're giving me good news. I'm getting nervous here because you said it was a mixed bag. Who's on the bad news side of the fence?
so on the bad news, we've got American Outdoor Brands. Now they did okay. They came in 4 cents above estimates, and revenue came in good. But they've made some changes, some restructuring. And for those that don't recognize that name, it's the formerly known as Smith and Wesson, the
Ah,
gun manufacturer. And
okay.
so they're trading down about 5.5% this morning.
They're kind of going against the social flow at the moment too. You pretty much got to kick butt if you make guns.
Well, that's true. And then the last one I have is the ski resort, Vail.
Hmm.
Um, and Vail came in and they did well. I mean, they beat by 19 cents a share, and revenue was well above forecast. So good things there. However, they lowered their 2019 guidance because the expected people that were supposed to come in before the holidays, the destination people, didn't make it. And so
Ooh.
so they're kind of making some changes there in that area. But again, it's one of those things that, good news is bad news. Bad news is good news sometimes, because they're trading up 4% this morning, $8 a share.
Maybe there's a rumor they're canceling mud season or something and just keep skiing,
Yeah,
right?
now if the futures would just turn around a little bit, we'd be in good shape. But right now they're holding on.
It sounds like it. Setting the table, a down day yesterday, largely on the China news at the end of the day. Dow was down 200 points, which is El Stinko. NASDAQ down by even a higher percentage, down 85. And the Standard & Poor's were off by 0.8% as well, down over 22.5. I mentioned that there was a little turn because I was showing downers of 150 points and more for a little while this morning on the Dow. It's not quite that bad at the moment, but it hasn't exactly been a major turn. What does the red ink look like, Phillip?
Well, I can tell Dave that you're on a delayed quote system, because
Oh,
we are substantially in worse shape than what you just seemed to think we were. Um,
dang.
Yeah, the Dow's down about 200 points right now. S&P 500 is down 20, and the Nasdaq's down 63. We've got gold and silver both trading up substantially this morning. Gold's up about 0.9%, as well as silver. We're still under $1,300 an ounce when it comes to gold. And then crude oil sliding almost 2.5% this morning, down to $55.30 a barrel.
They were saying that was because of the Chinese export report, figuring they weren't buying as much fuel for the ships, which is backhanded bad news as well. Yeah, you're right. I've got a delayed quote. My number said 8:31 a.m., and I figured that I was seeing the turn maybe off of the good news. It obviously didn't hold. World markets, the Asian markets just absolutely pulled the flush cord after the Chinese export report. Chinese mainland markets were down by like 4%. Japan's down 2%, and the Hong Kong market down the better part of 2% as well after that report. Europe not doing any better. They're in red ink this morning after the German report as well. Phillip, this has got to be making some folks nervous. How do they get a hold of you to be able to get a report and some stability into a retirement fund?
Well, Dave, we always talk about making sure you have an exit strategy and make sure you don't have all your eggs in the stock market. And so now's a great time for folks to come in and get our financial x-ray report. Call us at 382-0037. Check us out online at statlerfinancial.com. Hey, follow us on Facebook at Statler Financial Services, where we post these every morning, so that if you miss us, you can catch us right there. And then join us every weekend for the Statler Financial Radio Show, noon on Saturday, 10 a.m. Sunday morning on News Talk 730 a.m.
And online at newstalk730am.com as well. Phillip, thank you so much. It looks like it's going to be El Stinko today. We'll cross our fingers for better news Monday morning. Fair enough?
Sounds good, buddy. I will talk to you Monday. Have a great weekend.
You too, sir. It's 105.7.
Well, I hope you found today's show interesting, catching you up on some of the world economies around. And so I hope you have a great weekend. If you'd like to discuss your retirement plan, click the button above and schedule a phone call or an office visit, up to you. Either is fine with me. We would love to start that conversation. Give us a call and we can get that going. Have a great weekend, and I hope you tune in on Monday.